Hello, I'm Tom Anglin, and welcome to this sixth edition of Refocus Fridays. Thank you so much for joining me for a few minutes today. I trust that this will be a blessing and a strength to you. That's my prayer. I want to speak to you today on the subject of when grace becomes frustrated. That's something that I did in so many ways, especially in the early days of my Christianity. The Lord delivered me from 7 years of drug and alcohol addiction. I was a daily abuser of drugs and alcohol and many other addictions that I had. And I was gloriously set free of all those addictions except one. And that was that thing that I kept for myself and I enjoyed and I liked, and that was smoking cigarettes. And for a year, I was tormented with trying to quit and could not get victory over it. I would bust up cigarette packs, throw them in the trash. An hour later, I would dig them out and piece them back together and just in utter defeat begin to smoke again. And I was so miserable. And for an entire year, I struggled, and every message I heard, didn't matter what the subject was, I heard, "Tom, you need to quit smoking." And I continued to hammer away, and I'm going to quit. I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw them away. In fact, I took a pack of cigarettes, a brand new pack. I took a throwing knife that I had, and I wrote on the throwing knife handle, "Jesus is Lord," stuck it in that pack of cigarettes. And less than an hour later, I was digging out the ones that weren't broken and smoking them again. I just came to a place of misery and torment. And one day in desperation, I fell across a chair in my kitchen. I said, "God, you know I love you. And you know I smoke, and you know probably the main reason I smoke is because I like it. But I don't want to like it, and I don't want to compare myself to other Christians that smoke. I want to do this because it pleases you. I can't do this. I need your help." Maybe for the first time, I got that desperate with God and that honest, and from that moment, I was delivered from cigarette smoking and have been for now 38 years, and thank God very often that I've been set free of this horrible, life-destroying addiction. I have good news for you today. Even though as believers there's two basic categories of sin, unrighteousness and self-righteousness. Yes, that's right. And probably self-righteousness comprises more of the sin in our life than even what we would know as out and out unrighteousness. And by that I mean anything we try to do in life apart from the aid and grace and the empowerment of the Holy Spirit and the instruction of the Word of God. And so I realized for a year I had tried in my own strength to overcome this thing that I was powerless to overcome. It wasn't until I yielded myself and was honest with God, I was set free, and I realized that I was frustrating the grace of God. In Galatians 2:20, Paul says, "I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not set aside," literally, I do not frustrate, I do not nullify, I do not make void the grace of God. For if righteousness comes through the law, then Christ died in vain. Isn't that something? If righteousness comes through the law, which it does not, but if it did, there would have been no need for Jesus to suffer and die the way he did for us. In 1 Corinthians 15:56, it says, "The sting of death is sin, and the strength of the sin is the law." The strength of sin is the law. That's an amazing statement to me. But I'm beginning to realize the reason that is being said is because we make our own law, as Paul stated. He said in Philippians 3:9, "And be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which comes from the law," which our own righteousness, self-righteousness, stems from the flesh's influence on our soul, to be upright, yet without being sanctified and upright through the power of the Holy Spirit upon a life yielded to the Spirit's leadership. And so I've found and discovered the great way of deliverance from any besetting sin in my life is to just be honest, just to be desperate, and just to lay it all out before God and depend entirely and completely on his grace to set me free. And I've learned that every time that works in my life, and it will work in your life. And the wonderful thing is we can live a life day by day As the Hebrew writer says, and I'll close with this, Hebrews 12:1, therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance or patience the race which is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising or disregarding the shame. He has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. There it is. It literally means that if we're going to overcome sin and live a life pleasing to God, we need always, every day, to look away from every other thing, everything that we might have some claim of righteousness of our own, and look to Jesus and depend completely and entirely upon him. A great illustration was, while Peter's eyes were on Jesus, he was walking in a stormy sea. When he saw the wind and the waves, when he gave place to the circumstances, he began to sink. But he cried to the Lord. He knew what to do. He cried to the Lord, and the Lord immediately picked him up, and they walked back to the boat. What a picture for our personal life. Let's keep our eyes on Jesus, and that way we'll not only please him, but we'll make him known to a world around us that does not know him. There's your refocus for today. I hope you'll join me next Friday. God bless you.